super excited anytime we can have a guest here on MarketAbilities. Amy Mills, everybody. Just hearing the name Mills and like, okay, then you start talking about like barbecue and stuff. Yeah. It's kind of a big deal.
Sounds important.
It is a big deal. Yeah. Welcome.
Too kind. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, Amy's worldly. I remember first meeting your father, the renowned Mike Mills of 17th Street. I think the first time I did a feature on Mike, it was because he was in maybe Bon Appetit magazine, or, I mean, he had really made a name for himself. How much of a part did you play in that? And how difficult was it to keep Dad in that light, you know, because I know he didn't love it a lot. He loved the people, but he's like, don't make a big to-do or whatever, you know. What was that like?
Well, you know, I was fortunate. I went away to school. I went to Mizzou,
right,
to journalism school, and had years of marketing, advertising, PR experience.
Right.
I lived briefly in Dallas, then moved to Boston. Mm-hmm. So when I kind of came back into 17th Street, I really was still living in the Boston area, but flying back and forth a lot, or flying to wherever we were having some fabulous event. I spent a lot of time in New York in the early aughts when we were helping open Blue Smoke.
That's right. A restaurant you had in New York.
Well,
right?
A restaurant on which we consulted. So we were
got it.
Partners, you know, given a little piece of the action
Sure.
for our expertise, but we really had nothing to do with the day-to-day running of that. It was really getting it started.
Okay.
But it was a fabulous experience. And then out of that came the Big Apple Barbecue Block Party, which really allowed us to be center stage on Madison Avenue one weekend a year.
I remember that. Yeah,
meet
that's so cool.
many people.
So cool.
And that was really my thing, was meeting people, meeting journalists, meeting other people in the food world, forming relationships, and, you know, continuing to foster the relationships on and on. So I think my dad would tell you he was always very generous in giving credit, but I was definitely the wind beneath the wings.
Right.
And I was the person, the go-to
Pushing him
girl.
a little bit.
If somebody called and said, you know, this is Bon Appetit and we want to do a feature.
Yes, my dad is
I made
available.
all that happen.
Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely. So how did Mike like the Big Apple?
Well,
I can't really see him there.
The first time I really traveled there with him was with Blue Smoke. I mean, he had been there before without me, but I think he was bemused.
Okay.
I think that's the word. When that opened, he spent 8 weeks living there, and he found a little dry cleaner around the corner, and that woman very quickly became his friend because he has, you know, his famous shirt with the apple.
Yes.
And he would come walking in, she would say, the apple. And even years later, I would every now and then have to run and get a shirt dry cleaned if we were there visiting. And she would say, oh, Mr. Mike.
That's awesome. That's so great.
You know, all of the years that we did the block party, he would be standing out in front of our hotel smoking his cigarette at various hours of the day. And, and he got to see the same dog, the same people, people who lived in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know, New York is a little town within a giant town.
That is true.
Also, but he loved it. He was so happy to be there and walk up and down Madison Avenue, and he was so happy to come home.
Oh, most certainly. And you know, that's a big part of business. And we don't stop enough to dissect that. Okay. So here's what happens. You're already talking about a noted barbecue business, right? 17th Street was born when? Like, how long has it been around?
1985.
Okay, 1985.
Officially.
It's such a staple in the middle America, you know, this region of the world where it just becomes something. Like when you're here, you have to experience the 17th Street barbecue, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's just something that you do that is recognized with this area. Now, you mentioned things when you go to New York, and you mentioned like earlier some of the competitions and such. Yeah, it's cool, and we think, you know, that's something we would definitely want to do one day, but it's something you have to do. You must do those things, I think, to become that destination, to become that business. Do you agree? And talk about that, Amy.
Absolutely. We were never prouder, and my dad was never prouder than when we got a piece of press that shone a spotlight on Southern Illinois, because that means people are going to come here, but not only will they eat in our restaurant, but they're going to get a tank of gas, and they might stop in a store. They'll go to one of our orchards or do the wine trail or stop at a brewery. Right. And you need that out-of-town money in your town because there are not enough people here.
Oh,
so
certainly.
You absolutely have to become a destination. You don't have to become, but to get to become a destination, you have to attract all of these people. And with that comes doing events, getting press, making contacts, and doing something that is going to bring people here.
Right.
Yeah.
So on a daily basis, half of our business is out of town, out of state, out of country.
Yeah.
And we know because we write them on a chalkboard. We ask you when you come in, is this your first time? Where are you from? And it's fascinating daily to look at those chalkboards.
That is awesome.
Yeah. And let me just say that 17th Street Barbecue is very good because my pastor, which you know, which I was trying to connect you, Troy Benetone.
Oh, of
right.
course.
Yeah. He loves your barbecue, and he is such a
And
stickler.
that says a lot, man, because
he's
he
a
tries
stickler.
himself.
There's no other barbecue place in Southern Illinois that he approves of besides 17th Street.
And Troy was so awesome when the pandemic first began.
Yeah.
He organized 4 or 5 barbecue people. We went to 4 hospitals and
Oh,
fed
wow.
all of the workers. He
Yeah.
got the meat donated. He's just top notch. I can't say enough.
Yeah.
Pastor
And he
Troy.
used to be a barbecue champion in Memphis, so he knows everything about it, and
Wow.
he approves fully.
That's so cool.
Of 17th Street.
You know, that's what else I really liked about your dad. So we talked about events and the importance of getting out there, no matter if you're comfortable or not. You know, people are going to embrace you, in particular when it's food. Come on.
Right.
But the thing that
Especially
Mike did
barbecue.
well is, right. And he figured out, he goes, okay, these people have cameras, you know, and we have microphones. And, you know, he walked in with probably his best that day, you know, and he goes, just try this. Man, when you took a bite, I was like, what? Like, I love you and thank you. Like, it was so memorable and it was just so good. So just remember that. You may think that everybody knows where you are and that what you have to offer, but go see people. Take what you have.
Yeah.
Let people, remind them
I
of
have to tell them all the time.
Right.
My dad was such a marketer forever. And way back when he had the Corner Tavern, where he would barbecue for free, so
wow.
that people would come and have more beers, more dollar beers.
add a little more salt to the meat then, right? They needed
Yeah.
the beer. Okay.
He would get on the CB radio and have pretend conversations with people, telling them that, oh yeah, I'm going to the corner. I'm here. This is happening. And just
love
talking
that.
and talking to try to attract truck drivers to the
Wow.
Corner
That
Tavern.
is so
And it worked.
cool. And it worked.
Yeah.
Man, that is awesome. So, you know, I think that you're one that you always have your eyes wide open to opportunity. And we've seen it in a lot of businesses where people are hungry for way back when or the way things used to be because it was a simpler time. And, you know, you speak so lovingly of Mama Faye and wanting to preserve her memory in a way that she would be proud, obviously. But talk about that love and how, you know, you did it for your dad. And one day you just said, I got to remember, you know, my Faye. How did that happen?
Well, it's funny. We did not know what we were going to name this restaurant. At first, we were
Okay.
just calling it The Factory. And that started to get very confusing with the real factory that was right behind it.
Right.
So quickly figured out that was probably not going to be a good idea.
Okay.
But there are just thousands of names out there. And I didn't want to name like Drip, Perk,
Right.
Java,
Okay.
you know, your typical coffee name. There's so many. We just brainstormed names. And I was talking to a person at Onyx Coffee Roasters, who they roast our coffee. And he was brainstorming with me, and he was like, what's your middle name? Jane.
Okay.
Not that. What is your daughter's name? Faye, named after Mama Faye. What is, you know, we started
goes,
going
"Whoa,
through all
wait,
of these
what'd you
families'
just say?"
names.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then I was like, Faye, I love that. I have a friend in Birmingham who just named his restaurant Helen after his grandmother.
Right.
I think there's a little trend of that maybe.
Oh, love
But
that.
it felt like a nod to the feminine. And that's really the era we're in at 17th Street, globally now.
Sure.
And of course, we are always honoring my dad and living the legend and living the legacy, but we're marching forward into the future. You can't stay stuck
That's
in
right.
the past. So
That's right.
Faye just seemed appropriate. And the interior would have been the car showroom way back when. So there are little nods. You can see the logo. The F is from the Ford Fairlane, and then it's a hand-drawn logo. The tweed on some of the upholstery would have been like the upholstery you would find in an old car. And the whole color scheme was taken from a 1958 Edsel Woody wagon.
Love that.
So it's coral and warm woods, white oak, chrome and white. So it's very fresh and inviting, but it looks like it belongs here. People think, they walk in and they say, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm in Chicago or I'm in Nashville. But it's really the very best of what could belong here.
Details.
You want it to be appropriate and feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I went there a couple of weeks ago for my first time, and I walked in and I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, I immediately felt good. The lighting was good. Like, and
it's a vibe.
Yeah, I wanted to stay longer, but I mean, I couldn't. But
you can come back.
Yeah, no, I definitely
conveniently
will be back.
She's made it that way. You can come back.
Yeah, I definitely will be back. But no, I just want a nod to that because
thank you.
I felt very comfortable already walking in, and the staff was great and everything. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And I think that's I mean, you just heard us talk on for, a handful of minutes there. Make sure there is a story behind your business. Like, don't go, we're like, well, what's trending? And like you said, what's a great name for, coffee or whatever. Right. But man, to have a story, that's going to get you a lot of, I like to call it the comp time with the media. They'll have you on morning shows to talk about that. There's some heritage there.
Well, the story is everything.
Right.
If you don't have a story or you have to manufacture a story,
right.
You know how false that
exactly.
feels. And
exactly.
so the more authentic your story is and the more that you live it, you'll be golden.
Yeah.
So this is a tough question to ask people, but I think it's important. I know I have a way that I answer it. Are you successful, and how do you measure that?
Oh, I am successful in a number of ways. Maybe not monetarily always,
right?
But I think the measure of our success is our staff, and a third of our staff, of roughly 100 people right now, have been with us from 9 to 23 years.
Whoa.
And that is unheard of in the restaurant world.
That speaks.
Especially in a small town.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we just have this incredible crew, and we try so hard to give opportunities. We've taken so many people on their first trip to New York City. Last week, I took a group and we went to St. Louis and went to cafes and coffee shops and bonded and had a great time eating and dining around.
Nice.
We hang out together, we travel together, but we're in the trenches together every day. And when you find people who will fill into the culture, barbecue is a culture, not a concept. That's one of our famous mantras. And you have to drink the Kool-Aid here. If you don't like what we're serving, you're going to go down the street and find somebody else.
Sure.
Right.
To some other place to work. But everything is about, teamwork makes the dream work. Everything is about the team. We're so fortunate. Last week we were named the best barbecue in Illinois by Food Network.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Just huge for us. People come
That is big.
because of things like that.
Yeah.
But that only happens because of the person who is scraping the ribs every day and seasoning them.
That is right.
It has nothing to do with Mike Mills. It has everything to do with what happened at that very granular level.
That's so true.
Wow.
Goodness. I mean, and it would be a remarkable world if, again, you gave, the thanks like Amy just did to the people who have made them what they are. Without their help, it would have been much more difficult, obviously.
Wouldn't have happened.
No, it wouldn't have happened. It would not have happened. And then the other thing is, just remember we always say look forward and not necessarily, back. But what's that footprint looking like? What are you leaving?
Yeah.
For generations to come. And I think as long as you kind of keep that in sight, it's going to be the right one. It's going to be the right legacy,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like a mindset change, right? Like some people will say like, yeah, I would die for this business to be successful.
Yeah.
But would you live for it to be successful?
Right. You have to live it every day.
So good.
We talk a lot about what does that look like?
Yeah.
What does that mean? I'm living the legacy, or I'm living the culture. What does that look like?
A lot of work.
Dang.
Yes.
A lot of work.
Yes.
I mean, people look and they glamorize and they're like, oh, man. It's like, oh, man, you could do it too. But you got to get up early and you're staying up late and a lot of hours and a lot of sacrifices, because everybody who believes in you and works for you and with you. And my philosophy has always been they eat first. You take care of those who take care of you, and then the rest will come. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, and I think having a willingness to be wrong.
Absolutely.
And admitting that.
Really being humble.
Be
and
able to
being
say
like,
sorry.
Hey, this did not work out. I'm sorry. We're changing it.
Yeah.
And then like moving on,
Cool. A big part of your business can also be education, and that's something Amy has done really well, and I think she did it even before it was popular or whatever, where we know now that you can study and you can attempt to master whatever it is that they're offering, whether it's the barbecue, and how you did it. That's Praise the Lord. Is that book still out? I remember.
Yes, we have 2 books,
Okay.
Peace, Love, and Barbecue and Praise the Lord.
Praise the
and then
Lord.
our classes, our professional level classes are called On Cue
Okay.
consulting classes. So we're getting ready to have another one of those
Nice.
on February 6th and 7th. And people come from all over. They're either wanting to start a barbecue business or they have one and they know they could come and learn one thing that could transform their
That's
business.
right. Their business.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you have a lot of fun too. I mean, you're learning a trade or a craft, and cocktails are a big business now. You're instructing people on that. The barbecue, we know everybody loves that. Even how to make one of those fancy little roses there on the charcuterie
Yes,
boards.
the salami rose.
And that's it. Yes, the salami rose. Who knew? We've come so far, really.
Yeah.
But where do we go from here?
That is a great question. I think where we're going is this return to community. I'm seeing it every day at Faye. I see it at 17th Street. I think people are very happy to just be able to be out.
Yes.
I don't think, no matter what happens in this world, I don't think people will go in again.
Right.
People are really craving community, and people are craving small town America. One beautiful byproduct of Faye is that I've met so many people that I don't meet at 17th Street. Part of it is just the way the room is set up and the ability to really chit chat in the light of day with people. And, there's a couple who live outside Murfreesboro, and he's a nurse, works locally. She works for a hospital in Boston, but works remotely.
Oh,
There's
wow.
so many people who work remotely now, and
So interesting.
you can live anywhere, and they've chosen to live in Murfreesboro in Southern Illinois because of the natural resources, the beauty, the quality of life, the affordability.
Yeah.
We have so much here. It's exciting to see good things happening in Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
Will you do another location of Faye?
That is a good question. I would like to get the one that I have profitable
Okay.
first.
Okay.
That would be step number 1. I would be more likely to do that than another 17th Street.
Okay.
Because I have really learned that it's just so hard to replicate something that requires so much heart and soul.
Right.
And
Wow.
you're only as
needs
good
you.
as
Depends
the
on you.
person who is standing there in front of that pit, and
Correct.
the person who is greeting your guests, and you cannot be at all of these places
That's
all the
right.
time.
Yeah.
That's right.
Very
That's
difficult.
Yeah.
And Faye is very much like that too. It has its own little personality now, and we have such a good staff. I'm just so happy. One of our managers from 17th Street became the manager there. So I really feel that we've seeded some 17th Street culture in that company as well. But it has its own unique personality. The people who apply to be baristas are a different kind of person than who would ever work at 17th Street. So it's just very interesting.
That's true.
When you say Faye, I kind of feel like, though, when I walk in, I would expect someone to say, "Hey, honey, just go ahead and take a seat. Sugar."
It doesn't feel quite like
It
that.
Not like that?
It does
No.
have a diner type of
Did it?
sound.
Okay.
No. Like
The sounds.
the name.
Okay.
Faye
Okay.
Diner or something
Right.
like that. But no, it's definitely more of like a coffee shop.
It feels more
Okay.
modern.
Yeah,
it's
a very modern coffee
simple,
shop, yeah.
modern, clean.
Okay.
It definitely feels. It has great bathrooms.
Oh, see, that's
selfie-inspired
so
bathrooms.
important.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah.
Did you take a selfie in the bathroom?
No, but I should have.
You thought about it?
I will
Well,
next
you'll
time.
come. You'll come
I will
back.
next
Yeah.
time.
No doubt.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Amy Mills, look her up. Look up all of her. What do you call those babies? Like all your projects. What do you just
What do you
like
call
my?
them?
I mean, it's like my family. You
I
know.
don't know what we call them.
Your business children.
Yeah, all of my business children.
Yes.
Yes, 17th
Yes.
Street. You already know that name. I mean, it's synonymous with just really good food. And now you've got Mama Faye's, and so look that up, and the classes and the books, and
Mail order.
Mail order.
Our sauce factory.
it's in the grocery stores.
We're starting to export to other countries.
How hard was that?
Oh, man.
It's so hard. I can't even
Is
tell
it?
you.
Okay. So listen, baby
We've-
steps, people.
We have chosen nothing easy. We've gotten into the
Everybody
wrong
would do
business.
it, right? It's like if
Right.
it was easy, everybody would do
Exactly,
it. Yeah.
exactly. But it's really a neat business, and we wanted to bring our production in house. We wanted to be the co-packer people like.
Okay.
So because we've had negative experiences, but wow,
Nice.
Who
Very
knew?
good.
Who knew?
Very
That's
good.
awesome.
All right. What else, Lucas?
What would you say to like someone wanting to start like a small restaurant similar to Faye, and they're just starting out? What would be like the top 3 or 5 things you would tell them whenever they're getting started?
Oh, there's so many. I would say in order to become a destination, and maybe not everybody wants to be a destination,
right?
Number one, but in order to become one, because it's so interesting that half the people who come to Faye are out of town also, which I'm blown away by because I thought it would be much more hyper local. But you eat with your eyes first. So you really have to think about what things look like. And when you walk into the space, we worked with a fabulous architect, space architecture in St. Louis. I could never have come up with any of the things that are in there right now. But you have to really think holistically about your whole project. Your branding is so important. Your space is so important. And then obviously your people are so important. And if you have all of those things, the food will take care of itself.
Sure.
But you have to have, you're creating a space for this food and for this delicacy first. Right. And so it's really a big picture thing. And I tell that to people who come to On Cue. I know you love to barbecue, but you're going to do this much barbecuing and so much more about, branding, financials, operations, repairs, all of the things that make a business go.
The not fun things.
The not fun things. Right. Exactly. You're going to have to teach someone to cook the food so that you can do all of these other things.
Right. Gosh.
Yeah, it's so good.
It is good. Yeah. And remember, you got to appeal to all those senses, not just the taste, which that's key, but you're in it because you've got that part down. You're pretty good at that,
Yeah, I'm just going to like compare it to like if I'm doing a recording session with an artist and I'm doing like vocals or something, they perform so much better if like the vibe in the room is better.
Oh, most certainly.
So it's like, I think it's the same for your employees or the same for your guests.
Yes.
If the vibe in the room is really, really good.
Yes.
I think the food is actually going to taste better. It may not actually be better.
It'll just taste better.
But the food but the whole experience is gonna make the food seem like it's better.
My dad used to say this all the time. We traveled everywhere eating barbecue, and we would eat some barbecue that really was nothing to write home about, but we had the best time surrounded by the best people.
Yep.
And that is all part of the experience. That can elevate the food.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, a negative environment can also take your food down 10 notches.
Yeah, it could be the best barbecue you ever had.
Right.
But
like
it was the employee was mean.
Right.
Exactly.
Or
the bathroom, you couldn't take a selfie in there. What in the world?
Well, you could. You just didn't want to.
You just didn't want. Right. Yeah, that's so funny. I heard this week, even in retail, you have to be very aware when you're laying out your store. It should feel right. There should be flow to everything, like the way you're seated, whether you're going into a restaurant or trying to peruse, a retail place. It's got to be right.
Yeah.
Not to reference what was it back in the day? People used to say the feng shui, or you got to feel it.
I feel like their feng shui is still a thing.
It is. It's a thing. It's got to feel right.
Yeah.
You ever watch the little puppy, like he turns around and he's trying to get to the right direction, and
the lighting has to be right.
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah, it really does.
Everything.
And hotels and their scents now. That's such a big thing, and they're replicating that. It's like, your home can smell like the most, fantastic hotel. And
hotel lobby candle. Do you have one of those?
Yes.
So good.
Come on, girl. Yes. All right. Well, we've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
You.
Yes. And we'll be back again. It's a weekly thing. Mondays it drops.
Yep. New episodes every Monday.
That's right.
At MarketAbilities podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Spotify, iTunes.
All of those platforms.
Yep.
We're so cool.
We are.
If you got to say it, you're not cool, right? All right. Thank you, Amy Mills.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure.
Hey, choose a color.
We are cool.
Yeah, we are cool. Green? Okay. Good job, Amy. That was excellent. I love that. That was perfect for this.
I always choose green.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. See you guys.
Thank you.